Hearing on inclusion of land into certified agricultural districts. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing has been scheduled by the Board of Representatives of Otsego County, State of New York, in the Representatives Chambers at the County Office Building in the Village of Cooperstown, New York, on Wednesday, April 4th, 2018, at 9:55 a.m. for consideration of request to include 2 parcels of viable agricultural land into certified agricultural districts located within the County of Otsego and the recommendation of the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. This request has been filed with the county legislature pursuant to section 303B of the Agriculture and Markets Law. 2 landowners have requested that their agricultural land located in the towns of Worcester and Milford be included in agricultural district number 2 and number 6 within Otsego County. A listing of the parcels to be included in the recommendation of the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board may be examined at the Otsego County Planning Department at the Meadows Building, 140 County Highway 33W, Cooperstown, New York, during regular business hours. All parties in interest and citizens will be heard by the Otsego County Board of Representatives at the public hearing. The location of the public hearing is accessible to persons with mobility impairment, dated March 29, 2018. Carol D. McGovern, Clerk of the Board of Representatives, Otsego County, New York.
Okay, is there anyone who'd like to comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Regular meeting of the Otsego County Board is called to order. I'll have a roll call of members.
Frazier? Here. Farwell? Here. Clark? Stamel? Kennedy? Here. Obracker?
Here.
Bliss?
Here.
Marietta?
Here.
McCarty?
Here.
Wilbur?
Here.
Kotnick?
Here.
Martini? Here. Lappin?
Here.
Shannon? Here.
Please rise if you're able.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, privilege of the floor. Anyone would like to speak on any item? Mr. Hayes.
Hi. So this is the annual, I'm Bill Hayes.
Hi, name and address, and you have to state your background, please.
I have to state it back.
Everybody.
Okay. All right. So I'm Bill Hayes. I live on County Route 59 in Cooperstown. And this is the annual visit in honor of April. It's Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. Let's see if we have a resolution, as you usually do, you know, recognizing the importance of taking good care of the kids and the families who are raising the kids. I've worked at Bassett with a particular interest in pediatrics and OB for many years, since 1975. I'm still doing some per diem work there with OB and peds. But my interest is broader than that. I also am on the board of directors of Prevent Child Abuse New York, which is a state chapter of the National Organization to Prevent Child Abuse America. And our interest is in prevention. So the focus is not just a matter of make a report if you're concerned about a problem, though that's part of the story. The important thing is to recognize that child abuse is preventable. Child abuse has a very important and lasting effect on every kid, whether it's visible or not. And if you want to take a look at some of the potential impacts of adverse childhood experiences, you can go online yourselves and look up ACEs, ACES, stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. And this is research that has been able to demonstrate the connection between significant, stressful, recurring stressful childhoods and adult physical health and mental health. So the people with COPD may have a connection with early childhood experiences that led them to start smoking early and hanging out away from home and smoking with folks that started at 11 or 10 or 12, smoking leading to COPD in later life. So we have health implications for adults, and you can take your own little test online to see what score you get and revisit some things about your own childhoods to see what kind of stresses you had to deal with. And it certainly makes a difference, because not everybody that was mistreated as a child ends up mistreating other children or being ill. There's a lot of intervening factors that make a difference, those are protective factors. There may be some people that you were able to spend some time with or intervened in their life and made a difference in what was going on so that you had a chance to live, experience, and see another way of living so that your life trajectory turned out better than others. So that's what's important. Make sure that you are aware of and support families and kids in your own personal lives, as well as your professional work, as well as your work as members of the Board of Representatives here, making policy decisions about staffing patterns, availability of resources to your staff who are doing work in prevention, social services in many roles, and make sure that you take a moment to understand and thank the caseworkers who are doing preventive work. And there's a 7.5 FTE caseworkers who are specifically child protective workers, and they are dealing with and have to respond to every report that comes into them through the system. And this past year it was over 1,000, I think it was 1,044 reports that had to be responded to by your 7 staff members, some of whom are relatively new at this and only a few are more experienced, and that's an important factor in trying to make sure you don't have turnover. You have experienced, supportive people who've been there and can do this work. It's a somewhat thankless job. I understand that recently there was some pay grade changes that were helpful, but keep in mind the kind of work it is, what people go home and lose sleep about at night. But make sure that you are having staff who can do the job, who are well supported, so that they can do the difficult work. Make sure you're also supporting organizations that do important preventive work, whether it's Catholic Charities, whether it's the Healthy Families Home Visiting Program out of OFO, Head Start, and a whole range of other folks who are formally or informally doing things that support families and kids, managing to solve life's challenges. I mean, life is not going to be challenge-free. It's not going to be safety clean. But at least we can weigh the odds in favor of good, safe lives, happy and healthy ones, and so that kids can do well. Those of you who have been here before, and I see there's a number of new faces that new to me, know that there's something called the Parent Handybook. The Otsego Committee on Child Abuse and Neglect, which is an unincorporated association of folks that get together and try to do good things, has since 1990 put together a handybook. The current version is in print, and I'm going to give you all a copy. And it's also on the county website. So if you go to the homepage, right there on the homepage, you can see Parent Handybook. Click on that, and you have access, and anybody that you want to share that information with can have access to information about the range of resources and programs that are available in Otsego County that support family functioning. Whether you have kids or not, there's some services there that maybe you could make use of and your relatives could make use of, just because it's good stuff that's available. So be aware of what's out there, and I will share that with you. And thank you for your time, and thanks for taking care of the families in this county. So let me give those out to you. Even if you had one before, this is the newest version.
Thank you.
It's in print, so you can stick it on a copy machine, copy a few pages off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Nigella.
Mr. Bliss, I'd like to wish you all a happy spring. I hope you had a wonderful Easter. My name is Maria Agello. I'm a county employee, and I'm happy to be a county employee. For one moment, I'm going to focus on what Bill Hayes said. Child abuse awareness is critical because I have the hotline phone on my desk. Every time that rings, I know that there's a report out there that needs to be acknowledged. So for all of us here, it's not just about beating your child or neglecting him in some way. It's about endangerment. Don't put your child on a wheeler and ride him up the road. Don't put your child on a tractor when you're haying a field. Don't put your child on a lawnmower on your lap as you're going around. That's child endangerment. Be an adult. It is not fun for a child to be hurt on a wheeler, on a tractor. We've had tragedies where children have fallen off them. Be aware of safety. Always. This is a gift from God, this child. And this man works hard to let everyone know that this is an important issue. Bill, God bless you for the work you do. Now, today is a somber day in the nation. 50 years ago, a great man was murdered in an era of hatred, dissension, fear, but no different than today. We are divided. We have a lot of hatred. But I'd like to think at this moment, at this time, in this room, that we could find common ground to do the right thing. I see you got your 2017 books of resolutions. Did you ever read something that got you irritated all over again? I did. Here it is. I'm reading in March 1st. I'm talking about to hopefully get my home return, pay taxes. And then I read that Mrs. Kokoma said that, well, the court decided, they reviewed it, we transferred it, and I never said I'd make the announcement at the auction. I never expected her to go there. I expected her to follow the directive of Judge Brian Burns to make the call to have the announcement made at the auction. That was my expectation. Jim Castani had told me that she was an honorable officer of the court and she would do it. Perhaps she made the call and someone else told her, we don't have to do it. Now why would you deny me what the judge said was my right? I was in court, I was being litigated. I mean, I was being litigated too. But I was litigating to get my home back, to pay my back taxes. I'm still asking for that. And if you read your books, you'll see that I have asked for an ethical review several times. Several times. It's interesting reading. Don't put it away. Read it. And also, I would like to remind you that Mr. Bob Force is not a threat, was never a threat. He was pilloried in the paper, and he is an honorable man, a veteran, who's taking care of an ill wife. His case has merit. He's coming back to court. He will. He wants justice. We all want justice. Do the right thing. Mr. Bliss, I have faith in you. I have faith that you're going to do the right thing. Whatever the outcome is the outcome. So let's get this ethical board convened. I don't know how to do it. Perhaps someone can contact me. So let's move on with this. We need a resolution. My home and property back, or I want compensation for the horror I had to go through on being stalked, harassed by the buyer. Thank you, everyone. God bless. And listen to Bill. He's a good man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. My name is Amin Aswad. I live at 3 Hill Street in Cooperstown, New York. Some of you know me in my role at Catholic Charities as the case manager for the Otsego County Adult Treatment Court, and I also coordinate the Alternatives to Incarceration program for the county. and run the Victims Impact Panel presentations in Delaware, Otsego, and Shenango County. But I'm here in my other hat. I'm the Executive Director for the Jail Ministry of Otsego County. We are a separate 501c3 corporation. We've been in existence now for 58 years. October will be our 59th year, reaching out to the inmates housed at our county correctional facility, providing the religious services and the one-on-one counseling. I've been with them for 23 years. I didn't come here to do this kind of work. I came here to pastor a small church just outside of Fly Creek, and was invited by the local clergy to get involved. And after about a month in April, and I saw the needs, I saw a world that existed, but it was out of sight, out of mind, that I saw some needs. And so I decided to join the group, and 4 years later was asked to head up as the chaplain at the county jail and to head up the ministry. We are a membership of about 40 volunteers, including myself, that go into the jail on a Sunday basis doing the one-on-one services from a variety of different churches throughout the county, plus Bible studies on Wednesday afternoon and one-on-one counseling Wednesday afternoon, Bible studies in the morning, and one-on-one counseling in the afternoon. And we do a lot of aftercare, reaching out to inmates when they're coming out of correctional facilities, whether our own county facility or state facilities, our federal facilities, coming back into the county through our aftercare program. And our successful program that has been for the last several years is our Angel Tree program, which reaches out to the children of inmates every Christmas, because they're the ones that are doing the hard time and are forgotten. But I'm here because of the fact that I understand that a resolution that I submitted to Chairman Bliss and to our attorney, Ellen Kukoma, regarding declaring April as Second Chances Month, helping to remove the barrier and the stigma that this population that's coming out of jail and prison faces on a regular basis. Last year, how I came about this, because I serve on the Opiate Task Force, and I'm working on an article along with another pastor for the April edition, I believe it's the Hometown Oneonta newspaper, that Jim produces for the Opiate Task Force, bringing awareness to this need and so forth. And so when I was doing research, I found out that last year, April 2017, our U.S. Senate passed a bipartisan resolution declaring April 2017 as Second Chances Month for those coming out of jail or prison. Also, recently in the President's State of the Union address, he addressed the need for providing second chances for this population. And I have with me that I just got in the email just the other day, a proclamation that our president, whether you agree with him or not, declared April 2018 as Second Chances Month, removing the barrier and the stigma that this population faces. And so I'm here to ask you to help us by asking you, the board members of the Otsego County Board of Representatives, to also make that same declaration, which I've also presented to Senator Seward's office, which I understand it's gone to Albany. I'm still waiting to hear whether the Senate of New York State is going to adopt the similar resolution, and our governor is going to adopt, make a proclamation declaring April as Second Chances Month, because he too has been talking about prison reform. This is the first step, bringing awareness to the need for employment for people with a felony record. Most employers, a lot of employers, do not want to hire somebody with a felony record. The need for clean and affordable housing that meets the codes and that's not drug infested. I believe that if we can bring dignity and respect back to this population that's coming out, they've paid their debt to society by serving their time in jail and prison, and they've got a family they want to support. And we need to build, help, support, and build their self-worth by removing the barriers so that they can become productive citizens again. And it's a win-win situation for everybody. Number one, it's a win-win situation for the individual that's come out of jail, that's served their debt, they're paid their debt to society, and now they're getting their self-worth back because they've got a job, they're able to support their family, and they're able to provide a place for them to live. But not only that, but if we can help remove the barriers that this population faces, and we can make employers aware of the need and the tax incentives and the benefits of hiring this population. Number one, if they can become productive citizens again, it's going to be a cost savings to the county, because they won't be at the doors of our Department of Social Services asking for public assistance, asking for housing assistance, Medicaid, and food stamps. And so it's a win-win situation for everybody. And so I'm asking you today that for you, later in this meeting, would adopt that resolution declaring April as Second Chances Month here in 2018. This is the first step, bringing awareness. The whole year, our board of the Jail Ministry of Otsego County has given me the permission to promote this throughout the year. Through the faith community, they're aware of this. And I'm speaking at several churches throughout the month of April. But also, too, the goal is to get the business community together, and I'll be working with those in the county, the Chamber of Commerce, to see if we can put together a breakfast and invite a speaker in to talk about the benefits of hiring people from this population. So this is the first stage, but I'm asking you to join with the jail ministry, join with our president, join with the U.S. Senate in adopting this resolution, April 2018, as second chances for those coming out of jail or prison.
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Lloyd, resident of, well, the town of Hartwick, post office, Cooperstown, anyway. And in the early 1990s, I was chair for the League of Women Voters of a study of alternatives to incarceration. So I've been involved with this for quite a long stretch, and I am a member of the jail ministry volunteers. I would just like to add that if some of you are wondering what specific steps could we take, one thing that, I don't know, maybe even the county of Otsego could do is to look into a campaign by the Correctional Association of New York State, which is called Drop the Box. They're referring to the box on a job application which says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? It's saying that too many times when a person has to check that box, the prospective employer just tosses that application. Once the person is being interviewed, it may be appropriate to ask that after you have seen that person's qualifications. But that, I'm just mentioning that as one specific step. Thank you.
I'm Russell Ahrens. I live with Maria. I've taken her in at 180 County Highway 26, Cooperstown. I'm going to sit back down because I talk loud enough you can hear me. Wow, I appreciate your passion. Second Chances Month. I'm 18 years a senior caseworker here in this county. I do work with that population. And Catholic Charities is remarkable in their efforts and what they do. It means everything. And talk about second chances. Where's the second chance for this gal? She never even had a traffic ticket in her life. And you went and took her home away, and she begged you 40 days prior to the auction not to do that. So think about second chances and think how easily you could get this in reverse and do rescission, which I've talked to you in the past about. You did not allow her to have due process through this proceeding. While I'm on the subject, there's Bob Force. And Bob Force in Save the Force Farm. He is not going away. He was on the edge of federal court. His lawyer was there. They, at this time, have recognized that the case has merit, it's not frivolous, and he will not be responsible to pay for this county's defense of what our county attorney decided to take on. Why bring on a fight? I always thought attorneys were about trying to make, deals, trying to make everybody come out somewhat whole in this. And I'm going to switch a little bit here. And Bob Force, by the way, is not a terrorist. That is Staff Sergeant Force, retired. He loves his country. Probably loved his land, his home that he had for 30 years up here, the barn that he built, the trailer that him and Donna had, and the rental home that they had on that property. Meant everything to them. And while we're thinking of it and recognizing people, we went past this on the 29th of March, was the Vietnam in 1973. I guess we declared that we had victory there and we pulled out. That left 58,000 dead men. One of them was my foster brother, Charles Henry, along with so many young men in this community. Families forever scarred, but more than that was well over double that number that ended up sick from the poisons that we spread in the jungles there, and one of them was Maria's husband. I mean, return the favor, and you go and take the home of a veteran, of a widow, of a veteran like this? I mean, there's no shame bigger than that. So we go on to horses on the news. I hope they got them. I don't know what the outcome was with the horses running around up there, but our horse had a tough time when the title was transferred without any warning that that horse was being chased around in a field with a tractor and a cutter at night in October, just to harass that animal. So I did a little research, jump into another thing, reading on the newspaper about your study as a county manager. You're looking hard, and called up Livingston County and talked with the exec over there. Come to find out, you made me interested, so I went online and did a little research into that county. They do not have this body here. This Board of Representatives doesn't exist. You would be all town supervisors. So they save money that way. That's a better way to afford the $142,800 that they pay this gentleman. And of course, he's got a staff. Now looking a little more into it, you probably know this, Schoharie County added one at the discounted rate of only $110,000, 2 staff and a vehicle. So this sounds like something we can ill afford. In 1970, the Board of Reps was created when this building was built, and we thought, at least at that time, that this was the best form of government. If you look around at the different county, how we're set up, I think you'll find that there's not a lot of Board of Representatives in these rural counties. Back to the veterans again. We're one county that's not a Purple Heart County. There's 14 Purple Heart counties. Unfortunately, I can't really seem to get a fix on what that means. So if anybody knows, just feel free and let me know. They're still speeding past our house. If Mr. Marietta was here, I would encourage him to join me in asking for a speed reduction on that end of the road through Toddsville. Embezzlement. Let's not forget we had $25,000 stolen by a county employee right around the time that all this was going on with Bob Force and Maria. I would request that the state continue and reopen the investigation by the Department of Financial Services and investigate this further, because at this point it appears that there's more things that have gone on in this county, and it really makes me wonder where it's all gone to. I mean, we're down so many employees, we've cut jobs, and that hasn't made this community any stronger. Those jobs are now held by people that live outside of this community, many of them, and they spend the money out there. So thank you for your time today. Be well, move forward. Second chance, think about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Fungus, and getting back to the second chance, I am a volunteer at the jail. I do jail ministry on Wednesday mornings, and I just wanted to say just a couple of things that a lot of the people that are in jail are good people who just made very bad choices, and they just need the hope of a second chance, because they leave many times with no hope, because all they have to go back to is what they did before, and that's going back to the people, their friends, who are many times their worst enemies. And the people in the jail are children, and we think of people sometimes maybe not coming from great homes, but it could happen to any of you in here who have children. You could end up having a child who kind of goes down the wrong road. And I know if something happens like that ever did, and I hope it never does, if my child, son or daughter, was in the situation that many of those people are in, I would want my child, and I think you would too. You would want your child to have a second chance. And that's all we're asking, is that you vote this in today so that many of the people that are in there can come out with hope that they will have a second chance. And I hope today that you will vote positive for that. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been here several times before, but there's been a lot of new faces since the last time I was here. I'm the executive director of the Mohawk Valley Economic Development District. I started there in 1994, working my way up from accountant, comptroller, chief financial officer, then finally executive director. I left in 2015 to take the position at Herkimer County Industrial Development Agency. I was there for a few years, helped with bringing in Tractor Supply, a 1 million square foot facility into the town of Frankfort. The job came open again at MVDD, so I decided to come back and be their executive director. The last time I was here,
What's your name?
Steve Smith. I'm sorry, my name is Steve Smith. And the last time I was here, I was part of a group along with Dan Sullivan, who was our project director with MVDD, with the Cleaner Energy Communities Program. And we're working with folks from Otsego County on getting a $250,000 grant for the county with no cost share. The last time I was here, I was talking about our program, Keep Mohawk Valley Beautiful. And out of that, we were in the early discussions about the forming a land bank, a 6-county land bank. And it was our office who actually got that going, and now the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank has been created. We do business loans. The last loan that we've done for Otsego County is a company right here in the village of Cooperstown, the Paper Kite Creative. We're the federal arm to the Economic Development Administration under the U.S. Department of Commerce. The last grant that we've done for Otsego County was a $1 million grant to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. I just wanted to come here and introduce myself, that we are alive, we are a nice organization, and we're very happy to be in your 2018 budget. Thanks to Meg Kennedy, I corresponded with her a little bit. I've already met with Jody Zagreski. I've always been working close with the folks from the County of Otsego IDA, Otsego Now. So I'm just basically here to say thank you very much, and we're doing everything we can for Otsego County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes of March 7th meeting, 2018, which are available online. Gary, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Presentation of petitions, communications, and notices.
I have the monthly report of ATI program services rendered by Catholic Charities of Delaware and Otsego County for the month of February. I have a notice from New York State DOT informing us of a public information meeting for a culvert carrying State Route 7 over West Hill Road Creek in Worcester, large culvert project. The meeting is going to be held Tuesday, April 17th at 6:30 in the Worcester High School cafeteria. I received a letter from the IDA stating that they will be considering a pilot agreement for the Oneonta Rail Yards, an 80-acre piece of land on Roadhouse Road, at their meeting on April 26th at 8 a.m. And the meeting will be held at their office.
Okay, any questions on that? Special presentations, we have none today. We had one scheduled, but they had to cancel. Reports of standing committees, Public Works, Representative Overall.
Good morning, thank you, Chairman Bliss. Highway, we are busy getting ready for spring. A lot going on, contracts, equipment purchases, of course, ultimately, hopefully, leading to paving. Coming out of one busy season of taking care of snow and moving in now to getting us ready for all of our springtime needs. Building services, it's actually been a little quiet with their usual attention to detail. They've done, again, a great job through our, 3.5 nor'easters, I'll call them, keeping the sidewalks open and clean, and for that I give out again a big thank you. Moving forward, for Public Works, we're really going to be challenged, I think, coming up here in this coming year. My Public Works committee will be challenged, I will be challenged. We're going to be potentially addressing the issue of a new highway facility. That's a lot to consider. Creating a steering committee, reaching out to community leaders. It's definitely going to be a priority for us at Public Works. Along with that, and to dovetail with it, we're going to be addressing the issue of either repair and replace the public safety building. These are things that, again, fall under our umbrella of Public Works. We are looking at some real major infrastructure projects moving forward. In addition to I'll use our everyday housekeeping issues. So I'm proposing from this point moving forward to the formation of an action plan that will come out of our Public Works Committee moving forward to address new facility at the highway and the repair and replace at public safety. We will be looking for input, of course, from community leaders, from the community in general, in the weeks moving forward. And this is nothing more than, like I said, a plan to bring up issues, to set a path, and prioritize that path to see which way we at the county will be moving forward and to address hopefully better services to our constituents. It's a very aggressive agenda, very aggressive. And I would like to, in light of this, thank those that are going to be serving on Public Works, because it's something that we haven't done in the 2 years that I've been here, this aggressive of an agenda to throw out. So I guess I'm giving them a warning, Chairman Bliss, that myself included, be some sleepless nights. And then again, just doing some basic house cleaning at Highway and Building Services. Things, like I said, seem to be getting ready for the spring push. That's kind of a short and concise report. I would be more than happy to take any questions from the floor.
Any questions for the chair?
You're shocked.
I guess I commented that's a large project, both of those, the jail and the Public Works Transportation Facility. There's a number of shared services. The Village of Cooperstown, not the Village of Cooperstown, the school, Cooperstown School, Milford School, Village of Milford, Town of Milford, BOCES, the bus system all want to be involved in that, so it's a major endeavor. It's going to take a lot of legwork and a lot of coordination, so good luck.
I'm going to appoint Representative McCarty to lead that commission, by the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Intergovernmental Affairs, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on March 15th. We did have 2 IGA committee meetings this past month. Our regular business piece of it was March 15th. Lori Lanebauer from Board of Elections came in, and you'll see many of these things as resolutions in the consent agenda. Budget transferring money, Karen Sullivan from planning. We are, in your consent agenda today is also naming April as Fair Housing Month, and we moved that resolution forward. Karen also made us aware of spring land use training session at Milford Central School on April 10th, coming right up. That's open for planning boards and town boards and people who want to learn more about planning and land use and can use it for their training session credit hours within the planning board. So that is also available through the planning department. Also a floodplain workshop at SUNY Oneonta on the 18th, which is kind of a breakout from the FEMA floodplain maps that were all resubmitted and reworked, and all of the towns accepted them about a year ago. And now people are finding out that their homeowner's insurance has been impacted by these new floodplain maps being made up, and this is kind of a workshop for them to deal with some of those developing issues that have sprung out of that situation. Also, Karen presented a draft flow chart outlining the procurement process, which we actually did distribute to department heads, just to kind of a workshop, case-by-case basis. You can go through it and hopefully come out with a procurement that has followed all of the dotted I's and crossed T's for the purchasing department. We had Jody from Otsego Now come in and give us a summary of his meetings and a discussion of the training programs that he's been having done at Otsego Now. Also, we discussed the county's revolving loan program and how that might be worked in with Jody and Otsego Now. We began our community events discussion that day, but then we sent everyone home with a packet of about 50 applications, which everyone studied over, and Representative Marietta had a spreadsheet waiting for us for our second meeting, which we convened on the 27th, and we did award $47,650 to 47 events throughout the county. We did, I think, do that in a remarkably efficient way, and we did discuss ways that we could make it even more efficient and more streamlined, and we will be working on those as we plan for 2019. But thanks to the committee, I think we did a great job on that. We also discussed at our meeting on the 27th the continuing in the county governance discussion, and had an hour-long discussion with Ian Coyle from Livingston County, county administrator from that county, and we had a wide-ranging discussion that I felt was helpful as we continue on that track. Also, I am going to just mention at this time that Ellen, we talked about so many of our board members, board representatives members, have a tie to these community grants, and we had discussed how it won't be necessary for recusal, and you could speak to that at some point when we're ready to.
I could speak to that now.
Okay.
If you wanted.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, great.
Well, just the, under the ethics code, if a board member or a spouse or children are going to receive a direct financial or some other material benefit as a result of the grant going to a particular organization, then it is required that you recuse yourself. But if you're on a board that is advocating for certain things or doing good in the community or whatever, it is certainly not required that you actually recuse yourself, because you're not receiving any money directly or indirectly. People have their own personal thoughts on these things, and that's not to say if someone still feels that they want to recuse themselves, they can.
All right. And our next meeting is April 13th at 9 a.m. And then our second meeting after that is April 25th at 9 a.m. Any questions? Ed?
May? If I
Yeah.
could just add an amendment, our flood meeting on the 18th has been postponed
Oh.
due to uncontrollable circumstances.
Oh, okay, to an unknown date? That's
Not
it?
yet, no.
Okay, so no date. All right, Ed?
Representative Frazier.
That procurement flow chart you spoke of,
Yes.
could that possibly be shared with the board reps?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we could share that with,
I
I think we already did.
I did just
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yeah.
I think, or the last couple of days, it just went out to us.
It's just recently.
Yeah, I can send it again.
But we can send it again.
Yeah, we can
I had
definitely
problems
send
with
it around.
email for a week or so.
Yeah, there's been some issues a lot of people have, so if you didn't get it, let us know.
All right.
Read it out again.
Representative O'Brien.
And Representative Brisson, and my apologies, I always forget to say when the next Public Works meeting is at the end of my discussion, so thank you for reminding me that you so eloquently put that. Public Works will meet on Thursday, April 19th at 12:30 in the second floor. And thank you.
Okay, I just had a comment
Yeah.
relative to something that was in earlier, the Livingston County, they talked about savings, Board of Supervisors. There actually isn't any savings there. Livingston County in particular has 7 Board of 17 supervisors. They receive a stipend as their, from their individual towns as town supervisors. They also receive a salary from the county. From the county, as a Board of Supervisor member, which there's 17 of them there, and they also, their salary is about 50% higher than ours is here. So there is no savings there, and that's typical of all the boards of supervisors. They're getting paid by the towns and the counties, and typically at a much higher rate than our county pays.
Yeah, Chairman Bliss, just to do on that, there were 17 Board of Supervisor members making $15,000 a year, so that works out to be $255,000. Of course, we here have 14 at $10,500, so there's an additional cost of $108,000 with the system that is set up there currently, as well as, like you say, being compensated by the local town for a Board of
Plus the
Supervisors.
administrator.
And then their chairman, I believe is, or administrator, the base salary there is $30,000. That's what I had written down.
Oh, the
Right.
chairman.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
the
Chairman,
chairman.
chairman,
Chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board, correct,
Chairman
yeah.
of the board makes
200% of Otsego County.
Right.
Right.
So it was just interesting, those numbers, because I was getting a lot of public information back on that same type of a system. And when Mr. Quirrell brought that up, I thought it was noteworthy.
And then to that, I would just add that we are the only county in the New York State that has a Board of Representatives.
Others have either board of.
However, that's just a name difference.
It's very similar to a,
County legislatures
A
across
legislature.
the county operate just the way we do. In fact, I think a majority of the counties have some sort of legislature or board, rather than board of
Some,
supervisors.
yeah, or it could be called the council, that's just a
Yeah.
name, it's just necessary to note any change in
But we are the
duties
only
and
board
powers.
of reps.
Correct. Anything else? Great, thank you, Representative Kennedy. Human Services, Representative Krutnik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on March 14th. We started the process of declaring April Child Abuse Prevention Month, as you have heard. We discussed security at the Meadows, which is a long, sad story, and be very happy to go through it if you'd like. But I think we've solved that. We are having a contract renewal with our current security company through the 31st of December, and that gives us time to plan for a more long-term contract. Number of other things that you can read in the minutes. Deb Finger, one of the managers at DSS, told us about work participation rates. As you know, I think since the 1990s, folks who are receiving various kinds of services, public assistance, will need to, many of them will need to show that they are either working or looking for work, and the rate of participation in that work program is a big metric that the state is always looking at, and we spent some time talking about it. If you need more information than is in the minutes, let me know, and I'll point you hopefully in the right direction. We have been talking about contracting out some preventive services. It's at the talking stage right now, but that's another way to address the overwhelming problem with vacancies and turnover in the department. On the 22nd of March, many of the committee members and managers of the DSS went to Delhi Tech down in Delhi to see the I think it was 6 different designs for the tiny homes that we are planning to that we have a grant to build at the Meadows. The students, the technical design students in Delhi, split up into 6 teams. Each one of them designed the home based on certain basic requirements. They all came out differently. It was a fascinating experience, and we're going to take those designs and move forward with them, choosing the ones that, the pieces that will best fit us. This is really going to be a community involvement project. Delhi Tech, they'll be actually building them there. We'll have BOCES involved in some ways. We'll have a Job Corps, I think, doing the electric and plumbing, and so there's a lot of wins in this project. The next meeting is April 17th in the 3rd floor conference room, and you're all invited. Questions?
What was the time on the 17th?
Oh, sorry, yes. Just any time, whatever you... yeah, I'm sorry, it's 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any questions for Representative Coogan? Okay. Public Safety, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on March 19th down at the Meadows. County Attorney Alan Coleman presented the committee with a letter from Sheriff Devlin delegating authority to the chair with Civil Service Law Section 72 to discuss the labor attorney's recommendations. Next, Alan requested approval to extend the contract with Legal Aid for 2 more years. They are providing excellent service at good pricing to us for our conflict defender's office. She then discussed her field trip to Washington County to observe their implemented CAFA program, the Council for Arraignment, First Appearance. Further discussions with county stakeholders are pending, and there's going to be a meeting. Sheriff Devlin requested some purchases, some training, and to amend on the effective date of position abolishment. We then discussed some of the jail upgrades that Representative Overeckert spoke of. Art Klingler asked to surplus some incompatible equipment in order to sell. He then gave us updates on the training center survey that we distributed. Chief Pigeon from Oneonta Fire Department also spoke regarding the new training center and the needs of the facility. The Emergency Services Department is currently working with our purchasing department to draft an RFP to replace the training center. The county clerk asked to fill a vacant funding position. Personnel director came before us, requested to increase the DA salary to comply with the state mandate. Every year they tell us what we need to pay the district attorney, we comply. She also updated us on the probation director 2 position. We had interviewed, she had checked all references and stuff. Then the New York State Police, Captain Sisbauer, accompanied 911 Director Rob O'Brien. They discussed the 911 MOE trial period that just ended. Both felt that the project has been successful and recommended its continuation. Captain Sisbauer stated that this particular transition was almost seamless and one of the most successful that she has been involved with. We'll all be watching the impacts during the peak tourist season this summer. Code Officer Tony Gentile discussed his purchasing needs with the committee, including vehicle lease payments. After approving some training expenses, Tony informed us that he will be working on adjustments to the fire safety fee schedule to be implemented next year. We had talked previously about changing them mid-year. He's gonna come back and study, and we will attempt to adjust those with the new budget year instead of mid-year. Tony then updated us on some local laws and the status of some of the projects currently occurring or recently finished. The committee discussed the location and the usage of the mobile morgue, which I understand Health and Ed is also discussing. We also received a guided tour of the 911 center by Rob O'Brien. Anybody that hasn't toured that, I invite you to. It's very impressive and it's a great asset for our county. We meet next on April 13th at 12:30 in the county office building. Our fire advisory board meeting is on the 19th at 7 at the Meadows. Any questions?
Representative Wilbur.
Not a question, maybe a clarification. The fire training center that is being proposed and worked on, we're not actually replacing the existing one. The existing one no longer meets NFPA standards and is not safe for like burns and actual that type of environment. The new one will accommodate that. We've pretty much determined we're going to retain the old one, not tear it down. And it's still useful for search and rescue, for non-fire, still be useful for law enforcement type training and things like that.
Thank you. It still has function, and we aren't taking it down. We have another building put exactly.
Good. Representative Kennedy.
I just wanted to have a clarification on the extended contract with legal aid for the conflict defender program. I saw in the resolution that it's over 3 years, $334,110, but it only stipulates how the spending level for the first 2 years. So does that mean the third year is just you spend whatever's left over? $115,000 for year 1, $115,000 for year 2, and then it doesn't stipulate a third year amount.
That's because the grant itself actually started last year. And we've had a period here where the county has actually had to fund this contract because we weren't sure if we were going to get the funds from oils, from the state. So they now have advised us that we are going to get the funding and we can submit for any expenses that were unreimbursed for last year. So we're, at the end of the day, we'll see what we have left.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll be able to then get a subsequent grant.
Thanks.
So essentially, we're starting year 2 then.
More or less year 2. I couldn't identify the exact month, but yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Hearing none, thank you. Health and Ed, Representative Stamel's not here. We move to Representative Clark is not here, so it falls on Representative Martini.
It's nice to be me. Third choice. So we met on March 12th at 9 a.m. in the Meadows building, starting with Heidi Bond from the Department of Health, who'd like me to remind you all that there is the Healthy Living Expo happening this weekend down at Foothills in Oneonta. I believe it's from 10 to 4, but I would double check. So we agreed, we voted on using some funds for advertising and support for the Healthy Living, or Living Healthier Expo. Rabies clinics start in April, and I'm assuming that's preventing rabies, not. We voted in agreement to continue contracting with McGinnis & Associate for the preschool program's tech support, and 3 special educators to receive access to an online professional development course that is required professional development. The coroner, Terry Knapp, gave us an overview of the mobile morgue kind of system or idea. And currently, because of a retirement, there are now 3 coroners instead of 4, and there have been ongoing discussions about whether we should try to get it back up to 4 before the elections in November. Tammy McDonald from the Office of Aging. We entered into an agreement with Home Services and...
Getting paid from the new people that took over
Okay.
Prestige. The Vets Club in Richfield has been 4 months. I did call Tammy yesterday, and apparently the county hasn't been paid either, because we apparently pay Elm Park, and I know Cherry Valley, so there seems to be a little confusion in the contract, I guess, so I'll make the committee aware of it, so you keep track of it for me, please. I appreciate it.
Yes, Representative Wilbur.
The Living Healthier Expo hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
And what was the date again?
This weekend. It's
This Saturday?
Saturday and Sunday. April 17th.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday.
Oh, sorry. Friday and Saturday. So 6th and 7th.
Okay, any other questions? Moving on to solid waste and environmental concerns, Representative McCarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met March 19th. A group of people from, representatives from Hartwick College, OCCA, Seward, Sand and Gravel, and Casella were in and gave an update on the Otsego County compost project. They gave some backgrounds on reasons for doing the countywide composting, getting the project running, the public and private partnership. They also stated SUNY Oneonta first collection approximately was 5 tons of food waste in 5 days and resulting in 1.5 yards of composting. They've been partnering up with Seward, Sand and Gravel. There's some equipment that needs to be implemented, and hopefully as this goes forward, eventually they'll maybe do something on the northern part of the county. Jordan Clements, who was in from Soil and Water, gave an update. He attended a training in Syracuse and is working on grants, gearing up to write a non-point source grant and a lot of other grants. He also discussed the stream issue in Lawrence, and some comments that were made in the media stated that I guess it wasn't quite correct. Karen and Tammy were there and gave an update of the solid waste management plan, needing to make determinations of significance under seeker. After reviewing the information, Mr. Lappin made the approval to issue a negative declaration, and we approved that. She also requested approval to consolidate all agriculture districts into one. Approval is subject to a Farmland Protection Board approval in March. I guess that's going forward. We also approved a resolution 351 pertaining to local law establishing a sustainable energy loan program. And actually go do the new state regulations. That's got to be changed. That will be coming up in the next month or so. We also set a date for the annual household hazardous waste events. It will be September 7th and 8th. And she gave her update on recyclables. We had last month, or in February, we had 383 tons. Solid waste, we had 2,354 tons. Mattresses are still going strong. We had 90. And basically that's about it. We meet April 11th at 9 a.m.
Any questions for Representative?
There was one thing that was discussed as well. There's pending state legislation concerning a surcharge on plastic bags. of 20 cents?
20 cents?
10 cents, 10 cents,
20
sorry.
cents?
Sorry, 10 cents. But the reason it could be a concern is that businesses will have to prepare a separate accounting system and begin reporting to the state. It can be relatively challenging, even from my professional perspective. It'll be a little bit dicey in how it's administered. It's right in committee right now, but it's something to keep on our radar, because if it is passed into law, we'll have to really focus on training our local businesses to make sure that they're not overly encumbered by the reporting requirements. They have to have like their own separate bank account. They get to keep 20%, but then they have to have 80% in a separate fund that goes to the state, and they have to coordinate with their bank. And if you have multiple jobs or you have multiple small businesses, it's going to be hard. And but it's something to be aware of. And that a lot of people are working on.
Who's doing this training? We're gonna have to do this training?
I said we should probably think about doing it because
We, as a county, should do the training.
we're in partnership with the state, but that's kind of just a suggestion.
So this legislation is saying that if you use a plastic bag, they're gonna charge you 10 cents?
Pretty much, plastic
Pretty much
carry-out bag.
Non-returnable deposit.
It'll be, such a 10-cent charge. It's similar to the system they use in California, though the reason the state wants to do it is they also want to fund the Environmental Protection Fund ultimately. And so they're going to use the revenue generated from plastic bag charges to fund the EPF. But it's like I said, to me, I like the idea of a charge, but the idea of requiring small businesses to have to go through a really difficult accounting mechanism is a little bit worrisome to me. I don't like it that much.
Question or comment?
Me?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or comment for? No? Thanks. Administrative Committee, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many of the resolutions that we have today you've already heard about in the committee reports going through, but I will endeavor to hit the high points. Carol McGovern from our Board of Representatives clerk presented the home rule with regards to a request for the 0.25% mortgage tax. We submit that and ask to get it, and then New York State can tell us if we do or not. I think I presented that accurately, Carol. That is before you in the consent agenda. We also had what did I write here? I'm sorry. Andrew Chrisman was appearing as treasurer in his deputy treasurer role, presented budget transfers and an insurance payment that needed to be made. Bill Mason and Rich Brimmer this is a resolution, the striping contract, the contract with regards to Norton Chase Road, rehabilitation, the automotive parks that we have been revisiting and then revisited again this morning, the snow and ice contracts with the Village of Sydney. We discussed the capital asset management and real estate management, which Representative Oberacker spoke about earlier today. We discussed the DSS security contract, which finally was finalized this morning, and with a renewal of the existing providers. That's how that story has wound up for now, through 12/31/18. We do have a contract in place. Penny Gentile came in and updated us to the fact that the probation director #2 position is still open, and we're hoping to attract some prospective candidates, but right now it is still open. And Penny's office is also doing an M&C salary study, and she updated us to some of the methodology that was going into that study and bringing us along to the very good data that is going to come out of that, which will help us as we decide M&C salaries, which has been a continuing discussion. Resolution number 137, we talked about this already, the DA salary changed per judicial law. Resolution number 133, Brian Picorni, Microsoft Office, we're bringing the county's Microsoft Office, I guess, many steps forward in buying that package of Microsoft Office. Also, the Legal Aid Society, Legal Aid for the Conflict Defender, which we did discuss during public safety. The letter from the sheriff delegating authority to the chair also is before you in resolution number 139. We also discussed the raise the age legislation coming down from New York State and different ramifications of that we may be having to address as we move forward. We had a special meeting on Monday the 26th and had with regards to opioid suit litigation, and we listened to a presentation from 2 attorneys from the name of their law firm.
Napoli and Suit.
Yeah, Napoli and them. But anyway, that was a really very educational and really very good presentation, and definitely guided our decision-making in a late resolution that we will have this morning to engage with them as our representative in that litigation. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 24th at 9 a.m. and I will entertain any questions.
Okay, I have 2 questions about 2 different resolutions that are on the agenda today. 140, which is the home rule request to revoke suspension of mortgage tax. When we first did that resolution, it was open-ended when we would be collecting the tax, but now the new one says that we're only going to be collecting it until December 2020, and I'm just wondering why that is.
Because that's what the state put in.
Yeah,
their
I noticed
bill.
that. I wonder if we had anything to do with that, or any explanation.
No, so we put in for the same change last year,
Okay.
and it didn't pass.
Okay.
And we were told that there is a reluctance to approve any, any new taxes.
Okay.
So this year, I think they felt we're gonna put an ending date on it, and I looked up all the other counties that are, that are putting in this as, as something new, and they've all got an ending date. So I
Okay.
think what the legislature wants the county to do is to look at it every so many years to
Okay.
decide, do we really want it?
Okay.
Sales tax is like that as well. We have to go back to them every, 4 years now, I think, Carol? It was 3 and they made it 4.
It was 2, I think it's 3.
Or it was 2 and it was 3, so that's kind of typical.
Okay.
So, I wasn't happy when I saw that, but.
Right, I just wondered if
wasn't
it, yeah, okay, thanks.
Right.
Okay, my other question is about resolution 136, about these parcels that we're gonna take off the tax rolls. And I don't know if that went through your committee, because I
It
didn't.
did.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so, I mean, they're obviously very small, and, but I was just wondering if there's any discussion about possibly having the adjacent owners buy them or something to keep them on the tax rolls, or what the deal is with all
Okay.
this.
I just revisited this with Hank Shecker just this morning. And the first parcel and the third parcel, Springfield and New Lisbon, this is resolution 136, are abandoned roads.
Oh.
And there is some discussion about possibly revisiting these because the landowner technically could go out to the center line of what was the road. So they may eventually become part of the parcels that they lie adjacent to.
Okay.
But for right now, they are abandoned roads. And
Okay.
no one is using them,
Huh.
and they are just, it was deemed to expedite whatever was going on with them, to just take them off of the tax rolls and then deal with them separately to see if the landowners who are adjacent want to come back and take some of that.
Well, yeah, but then they'd already be off the tax rolls, right?
And they would go back on, I think.
You think?
Yeah. They're not huge amounts,
Okay.
but yes,
Well, I
I
know
think
they're
that
not.
they would go on. And then the middle one is a DEC issue where their home has had contamination, and it's a very messy sort of a situation that developed. And that, I don't know tons of the details, I can't remember it, but Hank did remind me of it this morning, that there was like a fuel tank in the basement that got overfilled, then it contaminated, so it's a property that has developed extremely expensive rehabilitation issues, and I guess it just was deemed best to remove it from the actuals until they were fixed, I guess. Keith?
Who actually owns the land like this road deal? I mean, who, if it goes off the tax roll, who ends up with, I mean, it's just there?
Do you
I
have
actually was
something that could
asking
speak
Hank
to
that
that?
exact question earlier. The county obviously doesn't wanna take on the liability, so that, it's just being moved off the tax rolls, and they typically list the last owner, if they can even find out who the last owner is. So the last owner on record would be the current owner on that they would list.
But that might even be before it was made into a road?
Whoever, yeah, I mean, whoever, I couldn't speak to that very specific instance of the road example that we're looking at today, but I had asked Hank, like, who's, just that exact question, who owns these now? And even, they're off the tax rolls, so no one's paying taxes, but it's technically, the owner is listed as whoever was last on record. But obviously, they don't, they're not paying taxes or anything, so it's.
Are these subdivision roads, or, I mean, because typically a town
one
road or a county road is the landowner owns to the center or through completely if they own both sides of the road, and the town or county just has a right of way across them.
The one in Springfield is the one that goes down to the lake.
Stagecoach
No,
Lane.
yeah, Steamboat.
Steamboat Lane.
I admit, there's some mercy.
So they wholly own it, so Springfield owns it, they're not paying taxes on it.
There's a public road down in there.
Yeah, it's a public road, but I don't get the part where they're taking it off the tax roll, because the town or the county owns it. It's already off, the town doesn't pay taxes.
I can speak to some of these, so I think the Springfield one is actually owned by a private person. But if this is what I'm thinking of, there's 5 or 6 other parcels that use that road, but it's not a town road. And so I guess they can't figure out who either exactly owns that road, but they don't want to, if we put it in the tax sale, someone could buy it. That's one of the problems. Sometimes in the tax sale, there's these properties that are for sale for like $100. So people will bid them in, and then they'll find out where they are or what they are, and then they will just not pay taxes. 3 years will go by, you know what I mean? We'll end up in the same situation. And I think there was some issue with this one as well, but in the meantime, we have to pay for the advertising, for the abstract, for all of that, to collect $16.46. So.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
The property in Oneonta, first of all, do you know, is it city or town? Do you happen to know?
That it's town.
Town. Is that a property the land bank might be interested in?
I will have to, I can bring it up, we have a land bank meeting tomorrow. Oh, Richfield was already being discussed. They had a land bank representative taking pictures of Richfield the other day.
The property in Oneonta had a fuel oil spill. They filled the fuel oil tank. If you come down Main Street, you're gonna make a left on Southside Drive, go straight through, and go ahead and turns up around by Old Southside Drive. And there's property sitting right there.
Oh, right.
I understand the former owners attempted to clean up, got really heavy into debt, and let it go back to the bank. I believe a bank owns that. They would like to lose that property because they don't want to do the remediation.
Yeah, well, somebody should.
Well, I just,
I mean, there's a concern about the county foreclosing on properties that do have significant pollution or other problems of that nature, because then we end up taking on that liability.
Well, sure, so if we have, as Ed said, if we have suddenly, the bank owns it, continues to own it, has no liability, no consequence, because we've taken it off the tax rolls, what happens? What happens to that neighborhood? You know, I'm not sure that I'm real happy about that.
Well, there is a program, we have done this with one other property that we had a few years ago, where we were able to clean it up and put it back on the tax rolls to sell it. And that one worked out okay. It can be extremely expensive, but certainly if you talk to the treasurer about, you know, if there's a particular property that you're concerned about, it certainly is a benefit if we can clean it up. But the way that they've done it in other counties is we don't actually foreclose on it. We go in, we take certain legal steps so that we're able to go in and clean up the property, but we don't actually own it. Once we own it, then it becomes our total responsibility. This is a way to let the property be cleaned up without taking on everything. So if this is such a property, I think we should bring it up with, you know, with the treasurer. On the other case, we did hire outside counsel who specializes in this, and I think we did have a very good result. Andrew's not here, but it was the town.
We spent $160,000 or more mediating that property.
County.
Yes.
I think once you added up the taxes that we didn't get plus the cost of the cleanup, it was quite a bit. And we had no choice there because it had been foreclosed on and they didn't realize that it had this problem. So there is a way to try to make it happen, but you really have to be careful. You know, you want to figure out, can we save this property for a reasonable amount of money?
It's in a fairly upscale neighborhood. Thank you for reminding me where it is. So it is cleaned up. At least that would be maybe higher than average. I don't know if that matters or not.
Any other questions? And I did say our next meeting date, 24th.
Yep.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Great, that concludes the standing committee, special committees, negotiations. Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are currently in negotiations with two different unions. One is the correctional officers union. Their meetings this month are postponed. We had two tentative dates to reschedule. The CSEA, we met a couple of times with them, and I believe we're very successful. We actually have a signed document. The highlights are it's a 5-year contract. They will be presenting and voting on that on April 25th to their membership. If they vote to pass that, then we will be acting on that come our May board meeting. They accepted the prescription health plan changes, some raises, some day after Thanksgiving, some bereavement, standby pay, among other things. And both of our negotiators this time, my experience, they seem focused on a lot of the problems that existing contracts cause. And I think that there's a certain element, a certain cost to both sides by not having that stuff clarified and worked up. We did a lot of what they called housekeeping with the contract that hopefully makes it easier for everybody to just work and do the jobs. And we aren't having grievances, everybody understands the expectations. Both teams, I think, did well. And like I say, if both sides give a little, I think they come together. Nobody should be expecting to get everything they want. And I think that it was a middle-of-the-road negotiation, and I think we did well. So, and they did well.
Thank you. Any questions there? And thank that committee. That's not an easy task either, as none of your committees are. Performance and goal setting. Representative Kutner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. As you remember, this committee is working on a permanent salary structure for M&C employees. Penny has sent out and has, I think, received all of her responses now for the salary and benefit compensation study from counties that are similar to us, not just adjacent, but similar in many ways. We'll be going over that tomorrow, and if I forget at the end, tomorrow is our next meeting at 9 o'clock. And we'll be going over that. And also, I think the intern that put this together, the data together that came in, will be presenting to the board next month at the May meeting. So you can ask any detailed questions there. We discussed the options of what structure the salary system would take. And I think I sent out an email to everybody asking if they would give us your comments regarding cost of living, having a raise based on cost of living, as opposed to having it tied to the CSEA contract, as opposed to some sort of a constructed stepwise system, or anything else that you know about and are interested in. We really appreciate that, because we're going to have to make that decision fairly soon. And we're also talking about Penny's making the final arrangements for speaker and trainers to come in and to train department heads regarding setting and measurable goals, which is, I think, the direction we're going in terms of adding a merit component to the raises. More on that later. And yes, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock is the next meeting.
Any questions?
Are we discussing that NISAC proposal tomorrow too, you're saying? Is that what you're?
The
NISAC one.
No, the survey that Penny actually did.
No, I'm talking about the presenter on goal setting. That was a NISAC recommended.
Yeah, right, there's one, Penny and I talked about that, and I think you probably agree, that was an awful expensive guy. He wanted $10,000 for a day. And I had some contacts in the school district who were willing to do it. She's following up on that, and we'll hear more about it.
I'll do it for 5.
Yeah. I'll do it for one.
Okay, the end is special committees. Any special reports from Otsego Now or any other committees?
Just touch on strategic technology and strategic planning briefly?
I'm sure.
Is that a special committee? I don't know.
Yeah. But technically it's part of the other, but it's still working on that through Gary's work on it.
Strategic planning, right? That's the old name. Well, we did meet and we had a survey that the results at this point have only gone to the committee members, but I'm going to forward them out to everybody. We had basically, I think half the board responded, then I forget the exact number of department heads, 15 at least, something like that. Maybe closer to 20 responded. And so we're going to be discussing that more. Our next meeting is April 30th, but we're going to be looking at the feedback from that. But we also talked at our committee meeting about creating a couple different things, trying to work up some committee work plans that would take the elements of the strategic plan and kind of start giving the committees a more user-friendly version of the strategic plan that's applicable to their committee, that they can just use for reference. We talked about taking the strategic plan and also making it more user-friendly as well, so we don't have to get out and flip open the bound book or look at it as a PDF, but actually dropping it into some kind of Excel spreadsheet so we can put some more information in there about maybe some target dates and some tracking information, just so it's a more utilized document. So we talked about some of those ideas, and then we also discussed gathering additional information from key department heads, some maybe just simply reaching out to them with just by email, and some actually having them come to the committee and with the chair of their committee and having a little bit more detailed discussion. Some of the things we talked about were collecting department missions statements. We think some do exist. Maybe they don't exist for every department, but trying to collect that information, documenting it. Is it, if they have one, is it relevant? Are they using it? going back to the strategic plan, what, and just generally their operations, do they have any goals? What are the pressing issues their department's facing? How are they using the strategic plan? So picking up on the survey and kind of taking it a step further and trying to make more use of the strategic plan, basically.
I do have one comment. Yesterday, when I attended the department heads meeting, and one of the things that was identified as an issue was documents management, records management, scanning, kind of all as one big discussion point. And someone asked, is that?
It's not only an issue for all the departments, but it's a public works issue because of the sheer volume of size and weight of the documents, particularly DSS on the third floor. I mean, it's reaching a point where the building physically can't handle the weight.
We need to wear helmets.
Yeah. So that's something that needs to be addressed.
Can I just mention here that the town of Butternut's had certain issues with records management, and we brought in someone from the state to talk to us about records management. And there is shared services money and money available to work with, say, the towns and construct one facility that houses all records management for all the towns and the county in one location. The Tompkins County recently did that. So that would be an idea to look at.
Right. And there are some grants out there too.
On your building.
Yeah, well,
Just add, yeah.
maybe that's used for the jail.
Good point.
Sure, certainly.
So when the state came to talk to you, did they talk about using digital storage for records? I know we have a lot of records from the past. There's not a lot we can probably do about that, but moving forward.
Yes, it was, I think Tompkins County converted to digital as part of this whole move. And they worked with the towns, and I can't remember the name of the woman who came and spoke to us, but she definitely thought that model was a good way to go, and that it would be good that there was money available in terms of grants for that option.
I might add something. The town of Springfield's also in the process of digitizing their records. They've been actively trying to go for grants to get for archive management, so they might be another good person to talk to.
Okay. Any information from Otsego Now at all?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the draft committee, draft board meeting minutes from March 22nd, we just got them last week. I just forwarded them to everybody so you can look at those draft minutes, but, I mean, the main highlights I think that are actually a continued topic of discussion at the last board meeting was the whole NYSEG issue, and so you'll see that in the minutes, there actually was a kind of a follow-up. There had been another meeting with basically the head of NYSEG and Senator Seward, and so there's some more developments that you can basically see it laid out in the minutes, but essentially NYSEG had was depending on the Constitution Pipeline to be built as their way to upgrade natural gas delivery. So when that didn't come to pass, I don't think they really had a plan B. So that's essentially what was somewhat came to light at this meeting, and so they are directing their own staff internally to come up with some other kind of solution. The idea that's been mentioned before, and it's obviously continuing to be discussed by them, is some kind of CNG station where they bring in the compressed gas, and that would be the delivery point.
Here we go.
But as you'll see in the minutes, this is a real strategic problem, so that's in the minutes. So,
there we go.
But that's what was raised at the NYSEG meeting. So this was just rediscussed at Otsego Now board meeting. And then you'll see the other information in here. I think the only other thing that to note, other than Tentar had their grand opening, and I think a couple of us did go to that. But great facility, looks to be a great great new business. And then I can't say I quite know how to say Codedum. I think I'm saying it right, it's a coding. They met with Hartwick, they met with SUNY Oneonta. They haven't presented to us, but it's an initiative. They already, it's a nonprofit organization that teaches students how to code. And they had presented to some of the local school districts and to Otsego Now, trying to bring a group together to basically they're looking at kind of a 5-year initiative and basically give the money or try to secure sponsorships or commitments to fund the program here locally in Otsego County. There's a real interest in it. I think a number of businesses are interested in it. I think Otsego Now, right now, is kind of taking more of a lead on it, and they've basically more recently developed a financial model that in partnership with Codedum, and so there wasn't an idea to try to kick this initiative off in 2018, but at this point it sounds like it's more realistically a 2019 launch, but that Otsego Now is kind of taking a coordinating leadership role to try to make this happen.
When is their next board meeting? I know they usually meet Thursday mornings.
The next Otsego Now board meeting is April 20. Yeah, it's April 26th at 8 a.m.
I have a question. So
About NYSEG, I can't answer that question, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna ask. I mean, so they're really not budging on the DeRuyter pipeline, and as
about upgrading their current infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that that's a 10-year, $100 million project. That
I don't think. Yeah, right. There's not a short-term solution.
10 years.
I don't know. There's all kinds of
numbers out there.
Yeah, years. I think is probably whether it's 5 or 10, and then millions of millions and millions of cost.
That's going to be substantially difficult.
Which is not, I think there's recognition that there's a need now, and this can't happen. There has to be a solution quicker than 5 or 10.
If they're trying to get the site shovel ready, then they'd want to have to have the adequate power and gas to supply.
Yeah, so to dovetail with that, I mean, I know one of the reasons why they're looking at this NYSEG thing right now is because of the potential development in the rail yard, right? There's an inadequate energy there. So what's their idea for where they would put this CNG hub or whatever?
It's not just the rail yards, it's
right.
Oneonta.
Okay. So are they actually talking about a location in Oneonta to do this? Like
there's not that is not even.
All right.
It's not even at that.
There's a wonderful spot up in the town of Maryland. I mean.
There's no, I mean, I think that this is an issue that the IDA is continuing to pursue, so.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for special reports. Does anybody have anything else?
Well,
Nope.
I actually have the Office for the Aging Advisory Council if you want to hear about that.
Sure.
They met at Elm Park Church on March 21st, and their annual volunteer luncheon will be May 17th at the Otasaga. They have a mandate to have a public hearing every year, and they usually have an information fair and a luncheon at Elm Park. But now they're thinking about maybe having it at Foxcare because there's so many people that attended, it's getting kind of small at Elm Park, so we'll see how that goes. As Adrian talked about in Health and Ed, Tammy talked more about the shortage for home health care workers, and she said it's really not just a local or state thing, it's actually a nationwide problem. And even though there's a trend for people to age at home, there's not really enough people to go and take care of them, so it's really kind of a dilemma. Ongoing conversations about that. One thing that Tammy brought to our attention, which I was not aware of, is that the Office for the Aging, Oneonta office, which is actually the satellite office, they are getting very short on space. And also, their main office is just one big area where they have no barriers from the public for any kind of privacy. So we talked a little bit about the possibility of maybe them co-locating with the other health and the other people that may be potentially moving or whatever. But this was just a thing that I wasn't aware of. I don't know if you were really aware that they kind of might be looking for another space. Of course, there's questions with the church because we provide them with a lot of income for the space, but whatever, and the meal site is there. So. We think that Health and Ed maybe should take a field trip over there, or maybe, I mean, this is just a whole other building issue that we need to put on our plates, I think, okay? Just wanted to let you know that. Oh, and OFA used to have a quarterly newsletter, which they recently introduced, and when they first put it out, they sent it out a lot, and then they realized how expensive that is. So they're trying to figure out another way to get more people on their email mailing list, and Tammy keeps saying, we really need to update the website, and that's something for the strategic plan too. I forgot to put that on my survey. I don't think that was on the strategic plan, but the county website really needs to be upgraded. There are people, AARP people helping people with their taxes at Elm Park, which is working very successfully. And then they also talked about the ongoing conversation of current and future needs for senior housing and meal sites. And what was interesting, the place up at, the new building up at Oneonta Heights, where they have 40 senior housing units. Apparently, it's because it's income-based, although there's waiting lists, there's also some vacancies because people are not fitting into the income slots. So it seems kind of bizarre, but anyway, their next meeting is going to be on May 17th after the luncheon.
Just a thought on this, and maybe you've already thought of it, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw it out there. On the home care for the elders, I happen to have somebody come in and watch as my mother is too. It is difficult to find people, and I wondered if maybe the county office for the aging could sponsor some type of a awareness and training program. One of the things that fits in with my particular situation is the lady that watching my mother. Her grandson gets off the bus and stays with her, and it works both ways because it's kind of entertainment for my mother. And if you have single mothers or even married mothers that have children at home, I mean, maybe there's a job opportunity.
Yeah, possibly, and they are trying to get more things going on in their volunteer network. But I mean, I just took care of my parents for 14 years too, so this is something I'm very familiar with, and it's just kind of mind-boggling that there's not more solutions to this. But yeah, this is something we're going to continue to work on because it's definitely a problem. And as though it's nice to have people come and be companions. Also, from my point of view, it was like family members cannot get paid for helping with their care. I mean, you can hire an aide for $15 to $18 an hour, but you can't pay your family member from your insurance. I mean, that's kind of a problem. I mean, there's a lot of different issues about this. So this is something that's really near and dear to my heart, and it's a big deal. You know?
It's very stressful for families to have that situation.
Yeah. So any ideas you got? You know, I mean, there's a lot of.
But I mean, I think you may have a population of people that would fit into that work criteria that maybe are not aware of the need and the possibility.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll keep talking to Tammy about this when she comes to our meetings, because it's an ongoing thing. But thank you. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay. Anyone else? So I guess we're at the point to the agenda. We should probably take a very short break. Anybody needs it, and meet back here.
Answer yes.
Yes.
139.
136.
139, 136. Anything else? Okay, so just those two? Okay, motion to dispense with the reading of all resolutions. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda. Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Frazier,
Aye.
Farwell,
Aye.
Clark, Stammel, Kennedy,
Aye.
Overacre,
Aye.
Bliss,
Aye.
Marietta,
Yes.
McCarty,
Aye.
Wilbur,
Aye.
Poatnick,
Aye.
Martini,
Aye.
Lappin,
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
Okay, 5,151 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent. Consent agenda has passed.
Resolution 136, authorizing exemption of certain parcels located in towns of Springfield, Oneonta, and New Lisbon from taxation in place on Rural Section 8. Kennedy, Overacre, Frazier, Poatnick, Stammel, McCarty.
Elizabeth, you pulled that, but
Do we have to have a motion to?
second.
Second.
Well, I just sort of, I don't know if I can.
One moment.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, you can't second that. I think that's
I just want to say, I'm not really sure I feel comfortable voting through this today because we brought up some questions about, especially the property in Oneonta, and I still, even on the other two, would rather see if we could get them, somebody else to buy them, instead of hoping that that happens in the future. Unless there's some kind of a time crunch that we're under right now, I don't really feel ready to vote on this right now, but.
I think, that these are liabilities,
Mhm.
and, and so by inserting the county into this process, I think that is not a good standard to set. We're not in the business of renovating properties. That's the reason that we are involved with the Mohawk Valley Land Bank and some other economic development organizations. To me, we're getting into micromanagement, and honestly, Hank is making these recommendations. I don't disagree. It'd be nice to have him come up here and give a little more detail, to fill out where the holes are. But I think. Me personally, these are recommendations coming from a department head. They went through our committee system. To be having this conversation now, I think undermines the committee system. So that's just my 2 cents.
Representative Cooper.
Thanks, Liz, for pulling this, because my head's a little spinning about this. You know, Ellen helped me a little bit during break, explain some of it. So my understanding is that the owner owns this, the private individual owns this property in Oneonta is the one I'm concerned about. In Oneonta, there is the bank, they own the bank, whatever. The bank will not foreclose. And so our options are foreclose and put it up for auction, or ignore it, or do what we're doing today. Am I correct about that?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so putting it up for auction, I'm not even sure we can do that with the contamination issue. We don't want to abandon it. So my understanding is that if we do this, then at least we're stepping a little bit away from that. Because suddenly now they don't owe us any money, we don't have to foreclose it. Are we forgiving the past debt, or are we just taking it off the tax? In other words, would it still come up normally?
Yes, we are canceling the tax lien. So the problem with properties like this, the Oneonta one's a little, not the typical one, but usually they are like small. Like for a while we had one that was like a round circle and it had no access from anywhere. But people would go to the auction, they would buy it, and then they'd figure out it was a circle, and then they'd not pay, and then it would come up again. And so there are costs for each parcel that we foreclose on. There are costs. So this is part of why they are doing this, so that these parcels that people are just going to buy and abandon. The last year we put a number of parcels on this line because they were like roads through different areas, and the concern was some person would buy it and decide they're going to put up a barrier and say you can't drive on this road because I own it. Now, I don't think that would work, but the point is that these were not, the road was of no value. once the people figured it out, they wouldn't pay the taxes, it'd go back, 3 years later, we'd foreclose. So that's part of it. But we certainly don't want to foreclose on a property that we know has contamination issues. Because the way the law works is once you're an owner in the chain of title, then you are responsible. So that's why there is a procedure, which I won't go into, it's pretty detailed, about how if we wanted to, we could take certain steps. If we wanted to, the other option, as was being discussed, is the land bank.
So would it be wise to maybe pull that one property that's contaminated from this list and then, or not, I guess I'm confused.
No, we would want to put it on the list. Yeah.
So I think that might be my question too. So if we take action on this resolution today, the land bank is still a possibility for that Oneonta property?
Correct. That's right.
I think that, in my opinion, is that, the due diligence being put into assessing these properties as liabilities. I think that I agree with Andrew that we don't want to slow down the process even further. We want to eliminate as much financial risk to our taxpayers as possible, so that we can focus on restoring this property through other means like the land bank, and dealing with the abandoned road through other means as well. I just don't see us gaining anything by keeping these properties.
And the other thing I want to point out is you can move them back onto the tax rolls at any point. This is not a permanent decision. I think it is more we've been trying to weed out the ones that are just this circular process. So. And the owners still own them. This is a way to stop that process. The county does not own these parcels. That's part of why we're doing this, because we don't want to foreclose and end up owning them, especially ones that we know have problems. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, sir.
Probably a conversation for another day, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but do we know if this contaminated property is it affecting bordering properties? Is that something that we want to consider to take those steps you just through that?
That I don't know. We could ask the treasurer to get, we've used this one lawyer in the past who's very special, has a specialty in this, and he could certainly look at it for us. I'm sure that if there's an oil spill there, there's been some work done already by the DEC or whoever got involved. I don't know a lot of the details, but I think we would be able to get more information.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Roll call vote. I guess I have to say that.
Frazier?
Aye.
Barwell?
Aye.
Clark? Stammel? Kennedy? Aye. Overacker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Boatnick?
Aye.
Martini? Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
5,151 ayes, 1,077 absent. Resolution 136 passes.
Resolution 139, authorizing the chair of the Board of Representatives to accept the authorization and delegation by the Otsego County Chair, Kennedy, Overacker, Frazier, Boatnick, Stammel, McCarty.
Second.
I think Gary said it. Did you say
Yeah,
it?
Gary said.
I can't second it.
Oh, you can't. Sorry.
All right, we'll go with Liz. She was first, I think. Okay, discussion.
I'm the one that asked that as well. First, I thank you privately, thank you publicly for getting us to the point we're at today. We've been moving on this for a year, and we're here today considering options, and that is partly due to your work. My question here is, does this get us where we need to be?
I think it moves us forward. I don't know if it completely does, I don't think it completely solves our problem, but I'll defer to Matt Ryan, our labor attorney.
Yeah, in looking at it, what this does is allows the board to delegate the authority to Chair Bliss for the purposes of conducting and reviewing the circumstances giving rise to the potential civil service law section 72 examination. So it is not a complete recusal or delegation of authority. It would be limited only to the application of that statute. I don't know if that helps.
So I guess the question is, if once that evaluation comes back, and, you know, it can, the assessment can recommend one course or the other, where are we then in terms of moving forward in each of those cases?
Can I step in there? Because there's a question before the results of that. And that is, does this allow us, the chair, to authorize the exam that we've spoken?
It is, the sheriff has delegated his appointing authority to the board, and as far as I'm concerned, legally speaking, that is a delegation that can happen. So, talking about what happens under the statute, it has to go in steps. It is not necessarily an automatic that an examination has to happen. There has to be first. The statute talks about in the judgment of the appointing authority. So the appointing authority in the first instance has to make an assessment whether or not the exam should happen or not, and that is based upon factual circumstances that obviously cannot be discussed in open here, but the delegation would give the board through Chair Bliss the authority to engage in the exam, have the examination happen if it is appropriate under the statute, yes.
In the conversation with the sheriff, was that made clear that was
a
if we were given that authority, that we would like to exercise that and ask for that evaluation?
It was made clear that that was certainly a course of action that we could take, once we review all the facts.
In my view, the delegation is for the purposes of the entirety of Section 72. I don't want to get into the legalities of it, but there are a number of steps that occur. And the delegation would apply for, in my opinion, all of those steps.
Does that answer your question, Gary?
That's good. So then we have that one or the other result. And I don't want to go any further in case we have to go into executive session to discuss this a little further. But so the assessment's over. We have one or the other of those results. What then?
The statute would control, and whoever is the appointing authority delegated in their authority as delegated or not, or as just the regular appointing authority, has very certain steps that they have to take. So if you have an examination, once you get it back, depending on circumstances, whether they say the person is physically and mentally capable of performing the job, usually the inquiry stops there because they've been deemed capable of performing their job duties. On the other hand, if there is a question about the person's ability to perform their job duties, then the determination has to be made whether or not the person will be put on a leave. And then there are, once you make the determination that a leave may be imposed, then there are statutory requirements such as putting the person on notice, giving them an opportunity to request a hearing in front of an independent hearing officer to make a determination whether or not, the opinion of whatever physician or doctor or medical specialist you're using supports the determination that the person's physically and mentally incapable of performing their job.
And so all those statutory instructions are encompassed in this statute that
yes, if you look at the statute, the statute speaks in terms of appointing authority. So it says the appointing authority shall, or the appointing authority may. So once you delegate that authority, it is for the purposes of the entire statute.
Thank you.
No matter which way this goes, no matter which way it falls, will the board at some point in time, either in executive session or as appropriate in open session, have the opportunity to discuss it further before any action is taken.
That's certainly my desire. I don't know if the statute requires it, but I'm certainly not going to act without consultation with the board and legal counsel.
We can discuss it, but I have my thoughts that probably would have to be shared in executive session.
Yes, sir.
I actually have 2 or 3 questions. Number one is, a year ago, I was on a committee, the sheriff told us that he was advised not to give up his authority. What changed? He was advised by the Sheriff's Association, for one, what's changed, or why is he giving that up? The other one was that with giving that up, we still have no guarantees that evaluation would be done if we requested one, if the person decided that he didn't want it done. So then where do we sit?
And again, with those questions, I think, you know, there are options. The statute does provide for unpaid leave. So it may be a circumstance where the person refuses to undergo the examination, that they could be placed on an unpaid leave. We'd have to look at the facts and circumstances giving rise to why the person is saying no. I forget what the first question was, if we authorize it.
A year ago, the sheriff told us that he was advised by the Sheriff's Association not to give up his authority. Now, he's giving it up. So, I mean, that's a question. You probably don't know the answer to that.
I'm not privy to it, but my legal opinion is that the sheriff can delegate the authority. So I don't think there's a legal prohibition to it. I don't know if they were speaking in terms of not giving up control over your staffing or whatever, but I guess that would be a position of a sheriff's office, sheriff's association. Don't give up your power, sheriff. But I wasn't privy to the change of ties on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So are we prepared to move forward and vote? Roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Stammel. Kennedy.
Aye.
Overacker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
I'll abstain.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Putnick.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
4,776 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent, 375 abstain. Resolution 139 is passed. It may be a good idea. You want to wait until after we finish this?
Yeah.
Okay, next we have, late resolutions. I lost my little cheat sheet there. Yeah. If there are no objections, late resolutions A through F will be acted upon as presented. Hearing none, we'll move forward.
Oh, wait, all at once?
No, individually, but
Okay.
if you were to object to anyone, then we would require a 2/3 vote rather than a simple majority.
Okay, resolution will now be 142, authorizing the chair of the board of representatives to enter into a retainer agreement with the law firm of Napoli Shiklet-Nick, PLLC, to commence a lawsuit on behalf of the county of Otsego against manufacturers and distributors of prescription opiates.
Second.
Kennedy, Overacker, Frazier, Kotnick, Stammel, McCarty.
Second?
Second.
Anyone want a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Please.
This will be resolution number 42. Any discussion? This is require a lot of money because we're hiring.
I would suggest a roll call vote.
I would think that's proper. Roll call vote, please.
Frazier,
Aye.
Farwell,
Aye.
Clark, Stanley, Kennedy,
Aye.
O'Bracker.
Aye.
Bliss,
Aye.
Marietta,
Yes.
McCarty,
Aye.
Wilbur,
Aye.
Koenig,
Aye.
Martini, Lappin,
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,151 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent. Resolution 142 has passed.
Late resolution will now be 143, proclamation establishing the month of April as Second Chance Month 2018. Kennedy, Overacker, Frazier, Koenig, Stanley, McCarty.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Wilbur, President Wilbur. Any discussion? I think we all have heard several people speak eloquently, so I think we're ready to vote. Roll call vote. This is voice vote. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 143 is passed.
Resolution labeled late C will now be 144, awarding bed tax monies for 2018. Kennedy, Overacker, Marietta, Farwell, Shannon.
Discussion?
I have to recuse myself from this vote. I have a conflict of interest, being an employee of OCCA.
As opposed to just a member of the board, you're an actual employee. Okay.
And I would like to recuse myself from this vote, not because of being on some boards that are awarded grants, but because of a appearance of a conflict of interest with my sister-in-law, to avoid that.
Anybody else?
I'm not gonna
I was doing the math real quick. I'm like, wait a minute.
The recusal, because I don't want this to fail, but I just want to go on record and just in the minutes just note that, you know, obviously I'm the appointed county representative on Cornell Cooperative Extensions Board, so we are funding their farm day. I'm also on the Cooperstown Chamber Board of Directors, and they're receiving some money. Again, I'm a volunteer board member, and then Girls on the Run, my wife is on their board of directors. So I just wanted that noted in the minutes, you know, those, I'm in a volunteer capacity with two of those, and my wife is volunteer on the other organization.
I don't believe those are conflicts, but.
No, they're not. I'm not, from the earlier, I agree completely with Ellen's comments, and I'm not an employee, and I will not personally benefit in any way from the community benefit officials.
And in the committee, he did not force us to give them anything.
That's true.
Over and above. All done very fairly, I must say.
Should just, for the record, should we state if we have any involvement in anything or not?
You don't have to, if you wish, you may. But if everyone recuses themselves, then we're gonna take each one out and have to vote on them all separately, which we can do.
I'd like to, I think, maybe do what Andrew did, and not necessarily recuse ourselves, but just mention anything we might have a connection to.
So I then am not recusing myself, but I would also put on the straight across the minutes that I am a member of the Skegness Fire Department, volunteer, and they are the recipient of a reward this year.
Okay, Meg.
I work on the Cooperstown Farmers Market Governing Committee, which is a program of Otsego 2000, so I work very closely with that board. Just disclosing that.
Okay, and I'm going down the list here. Otsego Land Trust, I'm on the board of the Otsego Land Trust, which is receiving a grant. Glendos organization, I'm a participant in that. Farmers Museum, I think, was in here somewhere, yes, there.
Yep.
I'm on the board of the Farmers Museum. And Cooperstown Rotary Club. Gary.
The Worcester Weeding, which is W-E-I-T, not
Right.
Waiting Theater.
Thank you.
Waiting a long time, I think. Worcester Weeding Theater grant is in support of a theatrical production by Catskill Community Players, which I'm an officer. and I actually wrote the application. Springfield Parade, 4th of July Parade, my wife has been a paid performer for the last 3 or 4 years. I suppose they're going to have her back.
As far as I know, I don't have anything to do with it.
Anybody else?
My wife does, I don't.
Okay.
I actually own a box of the Oleana Outlaws, and the Unionville Carnival Sales is sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce in Unionville, and I'm a director.
So I think that reinforces the fact that you all are dedicated public service and community, active in your communities, and I applaud you all for that. Now, this involves money, so we need a roll call vote.
Frazier?
Aye.
Farwell?
Abstain.
Clark? Stammel? Kennedy?
Aye.
Overecker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini?
Aye.
Lappin?
Abstain.
Shannon?
Aye.
4,300 ayes, 0 noes, 851 abstained. Resolution 144 is passed.
Resolution labeled late D will now be 145, authorizing Otsego County Commissioner of Social Services to renew contract with S&T Security, Koenig, Kennedy, Clark, Lappin,
So moved.
Martini.
We, I think
Second?
we have a second from Keith. Any discussion? No, hearing none, roll call vote.
Frazier?
Aye.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark? Stammel? Kennedy?
Aye.
Overecker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini?
Aye.
Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
5,151 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent. Resolution 145 is passed.
Resolution late E will now be 146, amending Resolution 122, 2018-0307, authorizing Chair of the Board to enter into purchase agreement for 13 snowplow trucks for the Highway Department. Overecker, McCarty, Wilbur, Farwell, Lappin.
Second.
Second here. Any discussion?
I just wondered on number 5, it says equipment cost, it says there's a period before the 3, so I assume it's supposed to be 2 million, right? 2,779,000.
Yes, the period.
Do we have to correct that?
No, we can just
Okay,
do
great.
it here.
Okay. That was it.
Any others? Roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Stammel. Kennedy.
Aye.
Overecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
Aye.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,151 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent. Resolution 146 is passed.
Late Resolution F will now be 147, amending Resolution 123, 2018-0307, approving Superintendent of Highways to purchase automotive parts and equipment and approving invoices. Overecker, McCarty, Wilbur, Farwell, Lappin.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Stammel. Kennedy.
Aye.
Overecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
Aye.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,151 ayes, 0 noes, 1,077 absent. Resolution 147 is passed. Okay. Is there any other business that anyone wants to bring forward? Hearing none, I think we will need a motion to enter an executive session to discuss the appointment